Hello, and welcome to Castle of Horror, the show dedicated to horror movies and awesomeness. This week, we have a look at the 2022 special from Disney Plus, Werewolf by Night. It is amazing to me that I live in a time when this is a thing that can exist. This is episode 383 of
I
this
can't I can't
show.
believe you're calling it Disney Plus and not Marvel Studios.
It's both of those things,
Yeah,
but
but
it's a
but it's
Disney
more
Plus
it's more
special.
Marvel Studios.
It's like an ABC Sunday night special, but it's on Disney Plus. Bear in mind, if you haven't seen today's movie, we're going to be talking about it from the perspective of horror fans who have seen it. So, warning, spoilers ahead from Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jason Henderson, publisher at Castle Bridge Media, home of the Castle of Horror anthology. With me from Austin is Tony Savaggio, lead singer and bassist of the band Deserts of Mars, and lead guitarist of the band Rise from Fire. Say hello, Tony.
Howdy.
Howdy. Also in Austin, Mr. Drew Edwards is the writer-creator of the long-running underground comic Halloween Man, which you can find at Global Comics. He is a Best Writer Ringo nominee, Austin Chronicle Best of Austin Award winner, and a member of the PEN America Fellowship. Say hello, Drew.
AKA Ted.
AKA Ted. Boy, I couldn't believe we got to meet the one that we call Ted. And finally, also in Denver, color commentary, the biggest Marvel fan I know. Julia
Marvel.
Guzman of Guzman Immigration of Denver. Say hello.
Hello, and it's biggest MCU fan because I'm not a comics person, but
Okay, all right,
yes.
fair. Biggest MCU fan that I know. But your closeness to the MCU means that you are picking up a lot more about the Marvel Universe than I think I know, because my Marvel Universe knowledge cuts off at around 1990. And
Mhm.
you know all this stuff about the Infinity Stones and everything. So
Well,
it's
I'm just an avid fan of like 3 or 4 YouTubers who know a lot of stuff.
right.
That's all.
You absorb it, Okay. All right. Werewolf by Night is, and Tony had already caught it at the Fantastic Fest. It is an American television special, directed by Michael Giacchino and written by Heather Quinn and Peter Cameron for the streaming service Disney Plus, and it's based on a whole bunch of characters from Marvel Comics, not the least of which the Werewolf by Night himself. It is the first Marvel Studios special presentation in the MCU, sharing continuity ish with the films and TV series of the franchise. The special was produced by Marvel Studios, and it follows a secret group of monster hunters as they compete for a powerful relic while going up against a dangerous monster, or so they think. Well, no, it's dangerous. It is dangerous. Okay, Tony, we're going to start with you. Let's go, Tony, Julia, Drew, and then I'll get us into it. Opening thoughts, the very short Werewolf by Night.
Yes, I lucked out and got to see this on the big screen, so that was awesome. And it was a secret screening, but there was a really cool Q&A, which I can reference various trivia bits that from that. So that's really nice. I can add to the conversation based on that. I want more of it, really, to be honest. I really like that we got these characters, these dark characters. Can you imagine if we had been able to grab this like in the 70s or 80s when they were kind of, or I guess, more likely late 70s, because that's when they were really trying, like Doctor Strange and Captain America. Like, it wouldn't have been this, but it feels like it could maybe have been this, but not, the budget would have looked a lot.
It does feel like some goofy
Right.
stuff from the late 70s, right? Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but can you imagine, like, because that was the age of a lot of specials, and they even kind of mimic that with the special introduction, and I think
Yes.
that is really, really nice. You can tell who's of our generation making these things.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I really like this. It's interesting. It was done in black and white. Actually, it was filmed in color first, and they put it to black and white once they kind of Marvel, I guess the powers that be weren't so convinced that it would work in black and white, and eventually, they were convinced. They went, "Oh, we have to do this in black and white, right?" Like, I totally see your vision. Go ahead, and in fact, they had monitors. One monitor was in black and white, so they could make sure to pull the contrast the right way. Just
well,
in
and
case.
also The main thing is they wanted to get not to be able to avoid a TVMA rating, so they have the black and
Right.
white obscures the blood and gore. It doesn't make because the red blood is all they really care about. They don't care about black blood.
Right.
How interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But they tried to plan for that, like I said, because during the Q&A, it's like, hey, we had a black and white monitor the whole time so we could make sure that it looked good. But they did a lot of stuff. I found it interesting. We can go into some of that, but they even add I'm pretty sure it's done in digital, but there's cigarette burns are
Yeah,
I don't know if anybody who's familiar with that
yeah.
terminology, if you are, but they added like there's cigarette burns on it as if it's a film, even
Mhm.
though it feels it's going straight to video.
Can we take a moment to talk
Streaming
about
on a
what
TV.
exactly that is? So as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong. Traditionally, you've got two platters. So
Mhm.
one projector is running and showing one large reel. The other, the
Right.
projectionist has the light shuttered, but he's ready to go. Then when he sees the projection, the cigarette burn, it means it's time to switch to the other reel. So he douses one projector, he opens up the other projector, and it goes. And
So
if you do it right,
Yeah,
every,
it's
it's
an
seamless.
alignment thing.
everybody calls it a cigarette burn because that's what it looks
Yeah.
like, but it's actually a Q dot or Q mark.
Sure. Yeah. And in fact, there's a what Masters of Horror called Cigarette Burn.
Huh,
Like that was a whole episode. But
that's
yeah,
cool.
but you don't see that now. And the fact they added it, I just thought it was funny that they added
It's
it
so
back and
cool.
got kind of a chuckle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was great.
But yeah, I really dug the look and feel. I think my only slight, and this is ever so slight, it's not even a complaint really because I like it. I would also like to see more Dark Marvel Universe stuff that isn't quite as
Mm,
humorous. I don't think it has to be grim dark.
hmm
But this one does a great balance. So I don't even know if I'm definitely advocating for that, but it would be cool to see. I think this is great for what it is, but that would be my only kind of like, oh, I love this so much and I love the feel, but I would also like to see something, it doesn't have to be menacingly dark, but some skewed slightly that way. But I think I really like it.
It is interesting to think that you could have like an hour-long Lilith, Daughter of Dracula special or something like that. It
That'd be cool.
that they could do any damn thing they want. You don't have to be stuck. It's a streaming service. They can do literally anything. They can have standalones. They can have specials. They could just do whatever.
And
Man,
that's how this came about. I
they
mean,
should
that's
do
that's why
a
we
Tomb
have
of
it.
Dracula. Holy crap! A Tomb of Dracula,
Yeah.
Dracula anthology on Disney Plus. That would kill. All right.
I'm there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I talked over your thing. Julia, what are your opening thoughts?
I really enjoyed this. I was the one who was wanting to do it because, again, MCU fan. And I thought it was a lot of fun. I love the creative use of the black and white filter with the red that pops through
Hmm.
throughout with the bloodstone, and then they add it more and more toward the end, and then they have the whole, somewhere over the rainbow Wizard of Oz thing when it becomes fully color. All of the color stuff, all of the contrast, all of the cinematography, the way it's shot, I loved. I loved the set. I loved everything. I thought it looked great. I liked the characters. Yeah, I agree that if we could have added another hour, we could have gotten to know the other players a little better because that would have been fun. But I really enjoyed the relationship between Ted slash Man Thing and the Jack
Yeah.
Russell Terrier, Gael Garcia Bernal. And Elsa Bloodstone's really interesting. I know she's patterned after Buffy, but I kept thinking she was just like Jessica Jones a lot. But anyway,
Yeah.
I just think it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I'm grateful that you guys were willing to go to do it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you,
Oh,
Drew.
willing. I'm like all about this. Like this
Yeah.
is I checked out like sorry to interrupt Drew, but
No, no.
I back in the day when I was in kindergarten, you could check out records at the library, and there was a Dracula werewolf storybook record.
Mm.
The Marvel version, so it was Jack Russell. And like that Jack Russell werewolf and Dracula just yeah, you didn't twist my arm at all. I still want to see Jack Russell Werewolf by Night, considering I've been waiting since kindergarten to see some Jack Russell Werewolf thing. Yeah. Anyway, sorry to interrupt, Drew, but yeah, this is cool.
Drew, what do you got?
Like, the thing that I've been thinking a lot, and I've watched this thing 3 times, since it came out on Friday. The thing I keep going over in my head is like how much there must be executives over at Universal right now like throwing things at each other as Marvel basically made like all their second guessing of their own IPs look so dumb. And just like whatever
Yeah.
they do with the Wolfman now is going to seem irrelevant now that
Universal.
this is
You're talking about Universal?
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Universal's been
Yeah.
talking about doing a Wolfman with Ryan Gosling for some reason. And it's just gonna look like amateur hour version of this now. And I'm a noted big Universal Monsters fan, so of course I really loved the sort of classic horror on MCU steroids vibe of this. I think I really like the way the lead plays Jack Russell, because he doesn't play him quite like your stereotypical like werewolf, broody werewolf character that we've seen a bunch of times before. Like he comes across as a bit of a sweetheart, and I mean that in the best way possible. His chemistry with both Man-Thing and Elsa Bloodstone is great. Elsa Bloodstone is, of course, the newest character in this. Most of these characters are characters that go back to the 70s. I think they did a really good job of establishing her as well. Although I do agree with Julia, the way they costumed her, unfortunately, did make her look a bit like Jessica Jones. They should have probably kept the ginger hair and the long coat from the comics, but still they did a good job of establishing like her personality and these sort of like, I know like there's like a big asterisk next to his name right now, but like the primary characterization of Elsa Bloodstone that we think of comes from Warren. I think this is probably the most literal translation of a Warren Ellis character I think I've ever seen on screen. Like she the actress really does a good job of capturing that sort of Ellisian woman, I guess, for lack of a better term. Also, kudos to Marvel Studios for casting two leads in their 40s. I always appreciate that, because a lot what we watch is centered on 20 somethings, so that was cool. I don't know, everything about this was one of the, like, being able to marathon this with the new Hellraiser was kind of kept me going through this week when I had COVID, because I was like, well, at least I have something to look forward to at the end of the week. So I loved it. I can't wait. I hope they do the other adventures of these three characters, maybe a Legion of Monsters TV series. That could be good. But yeah, really good time.
Fantastic. Gosh, does that leave me? Yeah. Okay. I wouldn't plague you guys with many more thoughts, because that was wonderful. I'd like to get straight into first just the look of this thing. Like what struck me, the beginning of Werewolf by Night, just the concept of it. I want to talk a little bit about the look and feel, and also just what I would regard as the daring of doing it in the first place. Because if you think back to specials of the 1980s that harkened to comics, or even of the 70s, like It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman, or the 1987 Spirit. Those movies often looked really terrible, because there was the people making it, they would go for the goofiness of a comic book look, for instance, but there was none of the, as far as I could tell, there was none of the sort of admiration for it or the love for it. And I feel like what's going on now is that you have people who will go for, like, just a balls to the wall recreation of the way things look and the rules and so forth of a comic, but there's an admiration such that everything feels you laugh with it and not at it. Basically, there's no sense of irony. You're not the guy's a werewolf, and you're not laughing at the concept that he's a werewolf.
Well, there's also like a cinematic language that they're drawing from.
Oh
Because,
yes, yeah,
this
that's true.
this has got those strong, early horror vibes, and the fact that it is more set bound than previous MCU entries.
Oh, I
But
love that
also,
so much. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean the look being, it opens up with like imagine. By the way, if this had been in color, I don't know what it would look like, and probably the stuff around it, like the opening title plate and stuff like that, would probably be different. So I don't know what the color version looked like. But in black and white, they open with that thing. Drew, you're a huge Universal fan, with that Werewolf by Night.
yeah, like the cue
li-
card.
Cue
Yeah.
card, and it's written in two fonts, both
Yeah.
of which are perfectly 1940s, perfectly, like
Well, and back up to
unbelievably.
before that, when you have the awesome special presentation, CBS special presentation thing. So
Oh
you
my
got like
god.
Yeah.
you're adding on from one nostalgia thing to the next, as far as that
Yes.
goes.
Oh, that was unbelievable. It opens up with that bongo drums theme that Giacchino has written, that sounds very much like, as Julia's pointing out, the CBS bongo drums theme of the specials, and holy mackerel. But then yeah, we go to that black and white title card, and then we push into this world, this concrete world, both inside this crypt, whatever the hell it is that they're meeting in, and then this enormous sort of standing cemetery that their meeting place is in the center of, and it looks like something. It looks like something out of like a mummy movie. I've never seen anything like it, and yet it feels instantly like a classic Universal horror.
Well, and that's sort of why I bet today there are, a lot of Universal executives that are just foaming at the mouth at not that this was the most talked about thing for the last 3 days on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's got 100% Rotten Tomatoes rating.
Yeah.
And it's so deceptively simple, because like they really zeroed in on this dream's eye version of what a vintage monster movie looks
Yes.
like. And it's and the thing is it's not an direct lift. It is, as you said, it's what you think it should look like.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mhm.
the whole bit, like when we were meeting all these monster hunters in the in the main hall of Bloodstone Manor, and you have all these like severed monster heads taxidermed on the wall and everything. It's not coming from any one place, but it feels so right. And for their Marvel gets a lot of flack for being formulaic, and I
Mhm.
guess I understand that criticism, but there's a lot of imagination on display here.
Mhm.
And a lot of understanding of pop culture as a kind of language,
Yeah.
yeah.
Man, I sat next to somebody who, this was a secret screening. I sat next to somebody who, when it was announced, went, "Ugh, I don't watch Marvel movies anymore.
Really?
Oh, I can't believe it." And I'm like, dude, I'm gonna watch Werewolves, and I've heard Man Thing is in this, and I'm ready. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I didn't let it affect me at all. But they are just like, Marvel Thing, and I'm like, who? I'm sorry, man. I get it, I guess. Like,
It's
I'm
okay
not.
though, Tony.
I
The
don't
funny
like
thing
every
is,
single thing. I don't like every single Marvel movie equally. Of
Yeah.
course, like there's some that I'm just like, that wasn't. I don't know if I'll rewatch that. But to go like, I don't watch Marvel at all. That
I
was
mean, as you're
baffling to me. And
shockingly
again,
aware,
all I
well, I was just gonna say you don't watch. I mean, the great thing is, it might come with age, might come with God knows what. I shudder to think wisdom, right? But the fact is, if a Marvel movie is announced that I'm not interested in, it is magically easy not to watch it.
yeah, I
There's
mean, but this was at a secret screening, so you're already sitting there. Like,
true. I
that's
get
the
it.
difference.
Ah.
There are many reasons why somebody would kind of be disappointed at a festival known for more obscure genre film.
Mm.
Like I get that criticism, but for me personally, I got to
Yeah.
see this on a big screen, and there was a Q&A, and
I
I
bet that was
saw
amazing.
the Man-Thing projected huge, doing
Yeah.
all the Man-Thing, setting people on fire and stuff, and there was fun action. I don't know. I just I was down with all of this. So, I guess, and I don't think it was even, rewatching it. I don't think it was even I'm at the festival and I have to enjoy this because, not everything's like that. But boy, it worked
No,
for
I'm with
me.
you.
But I love all that set design stuff too. Like all of in the comments, he looks the most alive I've ever seen him, like the demon thing. Also, the title cards show you all this other Dark Marvel stuff. Like there's a Wendigo.
Yeah.
It looked like in the beginning, like with arrows in them and stuff. Like, man, they didn't have to do that. That was cool.
I should mention that the set designer, production designer, is Maya Shimaguchi's, who actually she was the designer on Hawkeye. She was the designer on Thor. But I'm just astonished by what she's been able to do. That she took this assignment and she said, okay, classic horror. What does that mean? What does that mean if you project it and you sort of so many times when people say, we're going to reboot this and give it a fresh new look, it like is a kiss of death, because what you get is something that doesn't hearken to anything, right? It's a brand new thing, and you wind up with Thor with stupid giant shoulder pads and weird golden belts over his belly, in the 90s, right? Fresh new look. That's not it at all. She's like, I'm gonna make a super version of Universal. And by the way, as Drew keeps pointed out wisely, I mean, it is so gutsy for them to go, let's out Universal. And we don't even own Universal. Like it's not even there. Right? It's amazing.
Dark Universe, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, we have a dark MC universe. Is that fine? Oh, look, here it is.
Well, here's a funny thing. Many years ago, see, you and I have experienced, like, once we were working for Universal and we said, hey, what if we do some vintage Universal stuff, harken back to Dr. Praetorius? And they were like, that's a stupid idea. Kids today, they don't know Praetorius, don't like do any, no Easter eggs. Nobody cares about that stuff. Literally, that was the answer. That was literally what they said.
Yeah,
Like,
that was perhaps one of the dumbest things.
Yeah.
Like,
it was like, no Easter eggs because kids don't get it. And Marvel used to be that way too. I mean, truly, there were moments in the past where Marvel didn't believe. Like I was writing for novels for Marvel back in the 90s, and I remember saying, "Hey, let's what if we do one about Bloodstone?" And I wish I had the email still. It was like, nobody remembers Bloodstone. Literally, it was like a 3-word email.
That's up there. Yeah.
At least your Sophia Strange character will probably end up being in the movies.
I mean, at this rate, yeah.
Your lips to God's ears. That's no, but yeah, because at the time, Bloodstone, by the 1990s, Bloodstone was indeed a forgotten character. I mean, because he was like around in the 70s, with his big great white hunter coat and his big old shotgun and stuff like that.
Well, and I think the thing that Marvel and what pop culture in general has had is the realization that, like, longtime fans, of course, appreciate that stuff, but people who are not will also engage with it, as evident by self-proclaimed MCU superfan yet non-comic book person Julia.
Right.
If done well, people will engage with it.
Well, maybe the concept, basically, Easter eggs didn't exist because, in a sense, YouTube didn't exist. You didn't have a world for trading Easter egg information that you do now, and maybe that changes everything. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, well, I got to explain. There's like a triple meta Easter egg at the beginning of Shin Ultraman, and I met people. I was in a theater full of people who. Some of them loved Ultraman, that's why they're there. Another was like, hey, let me go check out this Ultraman because I like Shin Godzilla. Or even just, I want to see a guy in a suit fighting kaiju, right?
Right.
But the thing is, that Easter egg at the beginning it works. Like, I'm like, yes, oh my gosh. But then all these other people are like, that was a cool intro. Mm-hmm. They had no idea how kind of nerdy cool it was.
Yeah.
but it didn't matter because it was also cool if you didn't know that.
Right.
And that's the thing I argue all the time about people who have this idea about, well, why people don't remember such and such about G.I. Joe. I'm like, yeah, but if you get the kids and the dads,
Right.
not to be too, G.I. Joe is primarily male, aimed at males. That's why I say dads. I'm sure there's a bunch of moms who like it too, but being in general, I'll unwind that. But if you can get the parents who love the thing and want to watch it with their kids, that's the win. And
I think it's fair to say
crazy to me that almost nobody seems to get that. It's just so like none of the Q ratings and blah 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 seem to indicate that, but it's shown that that's how word of mouth builds.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why it's still based on some algorithm that doesn't involve parents want to go to things they can stand, and if they can share it with their kids, they like that. Like, I don't know why that's not in that algorithm, but boy, it should be.
Well, for one thing, you have to actually to create rich story, and at this particular moment, when I mean rich, I mean multi-layered. There's lots of stuff going on both in the story and in the content. For the content to be rich, you have to have people writing it who are steeped in it, and those people are rare, and so because of their rarity, they can become expensive. So, it's sure a lot easier if you're like, you know what, let's just let's not worry about the continuity. Let's not have any Easter eggs about old Die Hard or old G.I. Joe, because it's too hard for everybody to get it right. I would guess is the idea. But I wanna switch to, speaking of Bloodstone. So in the beginning, when Jack Russell, who is our sort of one of our two main characters, shows up at this gathering of hunters in something akin to the reading of a will. Very, very like it. All these hunters have shown up.
It's a dark and stormy night, and
Yes.
they're gathered. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're in this enormous, again, I'm not sure, this pantheon kind of building, and it's got all these hunting artifacts on the wall and so forth, and paintings. Anyway, they're going to hear a message from Ulysses Bloodstone, who has died. By the way, I could swear that there was an episode of the Avengers that started this way, with a whole bunch of hunters gathered in a drawing room to receive a challenge, but maybe I'm just imagining that. But and the message they get supposedly from Ulysses Bloodstone, the great hunter who has died, this manservant pops open with a turnkey, pops open a casket, and an animatronic shriveled.
This felt like the most Mignola verse. Like, this felt like something that would be in Hellboy to me, in the best possible way.
It was this crypt keep. First of all, if Ulysses Bloodstone in his 70s-ish had just died, he would not look like this thing. So what?
Well,
so
and it may not be him. It may be a thing that he created to.
I think he just made a funny animatronic.
My headcanon is that they've mechanized this corpse. I accept no other.
I'm with Drew. I'm totally with Drew. That's how, and that's why everybody's just like, oh. By the way, I loved everybody's reactions. Just like, oh God, why would you do this? Kind of like looks on everybody. But
that's what I assumed at first. But when his head gets knocked off, it's such a perfect head that it.
Because
I get that they could have sealed it off or whatever.
No,
well, it's separated when he's in a coffin too. Yeah.
No, it's been turned into an animatronic, and that's the twisted genius of it all.
Yeah. It's a disgusting version of taxidermy, and
he's sort of freeze dried. The head, when it's in its animatronic form up there, is disconnected from the neck, so it can move. This is a weird thing.
Well, and he talks in Crypt Keeper-esque puns.
I'll be rotting for you. Oh my God.
Oh man.
So,
I love everybody's reaction. Like, all of it, just they're like, why are we watching? Holy crap. And just like when he makes the pun, and everyone's like, oh good grief.
Well, and the funny thing is, so that's how we're not in the real universe, and this thing is not going to treat it. Elsa is not disturbed to see her dad's corpse moving around. Neither is.
Well, she is disturbed when her stepmom calls lover without
Yes.
tear though.
Yeah, right.
A
Yeah, the
lover
sex
without
was
tear.
gross.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So that is just a brilliant bit, and it reminds us, by the way, that in the great Universal horrors, there was always comic relief, usually in the form of daffy, usually daffy manservants who would like it would be the butler and the maid who would sort of chat with one another about the plot and like cower and do
Well,
stuff. Yeah.
they've also really tapped into something about the whole, not just Ulysses Bloodstone, but Elsa Bloodstone as a character, is
Mm.
that they're tied into this like old-timey British,
Mhm.
aristocrat attitude that plays really well in this Universal Monsters pastiche. But
Yes.
like it's also something when Ellis used the character in Next Wave,
Mhm.
like he was kind of weirdly celebrating but also making fun because like the previous of Elsa Bloodstone was basically if Buffy and Tomb Raider had a baby, like it wasn't
Right.
a particularly distinct character. And then you know when they reinvented her in Next Wave, like she suddenly looked quite different.
Mhm.
She had this this sort of cartoonishly upper crust attitude, and I like the way the character is portrayed here as this sort of defrosting ice queen
Right.
is awesomely funny especially at the very end, where with the butler character, where he's like, well ma'am, I just wanted to make myself available, and she's like, great, clean all this crap up.
Right.
And like like
She sits down on her throne.
Yeah.
yeah, I loved that. Like, because it's like, the line on tvtropes.com, which is good is not nice. And
Mhm.
I think that she's a perfect example of it.
Right. Right. And I think you said it. I mean, to some extent, that is a Tomb Raider concept too. The whole, and Doc Savage and a few others who are Doc Savage. Yes, Doc Savage, where they're sort of above it all. Doc Savage was never this funny, but where that they're basically part of an elite, and there's an irony and so forth. She's wonderful. I mean, I really do like this character a lot. I have to say, Jack Russell, I one thing I like about his performance, let's talk about him for a little bit. He explains to Elsa, he says, that wolf that you deal with is not me. So he's explaining that the wolf is a different personality that he's not right now, and he has his systems to keep it in place. What's interesting to me is that he doesn't particularly ask for her pity or anything like that. He's just trying to explain it as best he can, which I think if you have no patience for him, you could say, well, that's all well and good, but you're going to kill people. But he, nevertheless, that doesn't change anything about the reality as he's explaining it. And it's just a very interesting conflict where he's
He
explaining that.
is, like what I like about the way they've gone with this character, because like the Jack Russell in the comics is a very different
Oh, really?
character.
Apologies to everybody. I have just switched over to my phone because I was having computer problems.
Fantastic.
So now we were talking about Jack Russell's the way he is presented here versus the way he is in the comics, which is more along the lines of Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four. He's like a young, quote unquote, hip guy, or a 30-something comic book writer's idea of a young hip guy. And the Jack Russellness, this I kind of like the way that they went with it, because he's sort of he's a guy that he's beta male. Like, he's not super macho, like they could have very easily gone with a hot-headed type, but this is a guy that's he knows his own power. Like, he's acutely aware of how powerful he actually is, but he never once makes a chest thumping show about it. Like, even when he's talking to the hunters, and they're making a big production because they're sadists, about how they're about to kill him, and he really doesn't want to kill them.
Yeah.
He says, and it's my favorite exchange in the whole thing is, please kill me as I am, because if not, there will be no mercy. And then Elsa's stepmother says something to the effect of, well, we're showing you mercy by killing you. And, but the way he says mercy, there will be no mercy, is like he knows that he is perfectly capable of slaughtering every single one of these monster hunters who are so full of themselves.
Yeah.
And I just like the way, like, he's a very, throughout most of this thing, he's very gentle. He's quirky. He's not like a puffed up thing, but like when it comes down to it, like, this is a guy that knows how powerful he is. And there's something kind of cool about that characterization, because we don't see it very often, particularly in anything to do with a cursed character, or sort of a Hulk archetype, because all this stuff is very related.
That with you saying that, it reminds me that we never really hear Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner is a sweet guy, but we never hear Bruce Banner being philosophical in the way that Jack Russell is philosophical. Like, he talks about the meaning of how we carry family in our lives, and he talks with his hands, and he's being very thoughtful about it all. And it's occurring to me that I've never heard Bruce Banner talk about his philosophy of family, or I've never heard, for that matter, Lawrence Talbot talk about his philosophy of anything other than "please help me die." There's an urgency to Lawrence Talbot that's not here. This guy is just he's a thoughtful person, and he wants to share his thoughts. It's interesting.
And he's not fatalistic the way Lawrence Talbot is.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tony.
I think you get a little bit about Hulk when he's talking to his cousin, She-Hulk. I think you get a little bit of family. I mean, by proxy, I mean, you have to, but I think there's some philosophy there. So I don't think that's totally untrue, but it is a different take. It's a welcome take on what it means to be a monster. And you see maybe shades of that in perhaps some Clive Barker stuff. Nightbreed, you get a little bit of the what does it mean to be a monster kind of thing. That's pretty philosophical. There's shades of that, but this is different even than that.
Well,
although now that
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Good. No, but please, it's fine. Finish your thought.
Yeah, although I did when they show the shot of the whole kind of maze compound, area where they're fighting, I did wonder if anybody thought to make it shades of Midian from the Nightbreed movie, because it reminded me of that, but that could just be me that I like that, but it felt like that, and I just wonder if there were some nods to that, but I don't know.
Sure
if
there are elements of it.
I
mean, for sure, but although to me it looked like a crazy version of the New Orleans parish cemetery,
right? And I think there's some. I think both of those. I think the graveyard Midian draws from that tradition as well.
Yeah.
So there's probably a touchstone. Again, this might be a thing where that had the same touchstones that we were going for.
And
what it's also a little bit LA, in how it is, which is also would harken back to, hey, we're Universal, and so we're gonna have some things are gonna be Hollywood.
Yes.
I think all of that's great.
Stage-bound Burbank thing. Yeah, go ahead, Drew.
Before we get too far away from the topic of the way Jack talks about his condition, and the thing you were just talking about, the way he talks about family, the way the relationship between, because they don't have a whole lot of time, they may spend about 10 minutes total character building throughout this whole thing. But and that's what I would say is probably one of the primary differences between this and a real Universal monster. film. But when him and the scene with him and Elsa talking in the cemetery, and when they're in that tomb, and the way he talks about family, and the way they relate to one another, and the way that they play off them being sort of attracted to each other, is, again, like, he's letting her lead the conversation. Like he even, when she says, like, you don't understand my family, he's like, I never could, you're right. And that's again so refreshing and so different from the way they could have gone with this character. Like, I just really liked the writing, especially the parts where they did slow down for a second.
Absolutely.
Because there's a majority of action in this, and the action is great, but it's like those little character bits which just push this over from something that I would have liked into something that I loved.
Well, I was just going to observe that it's an hour-long special, and yet they've taken the time for these character bits, and I'm so thankful. In other words, I would not trade any of these conversations, and indeed I would put these conversations, something similar to them, into the giant 2-hour hero films, and each one of those hero films, I would give up at least one long set piece, because after a while, a set piece is just a set piece. I mean, you get into it because you're in your seat, you're excited. But I mean, wouldn't it be better just to have some more conversations?
Yeah. See, I feel like I don't want to. I'm not gonna pick on any one Marvel show or even just series, whatever, in general. But there are some shows that I have not enjoyed as much because, well, I will pick on something. I'll pick on the Star Wars shows. Some of the Star Wars, like this Andor, everybody seems to like so much. I don't really love it, and it's like, for me, it's because that. People keep saying, "Oh, I'm getting into these characters." I don't have a sense for the characters at all, and I don't know what it is with me that I'm just like blocked from that. But with these guys, I had a sense of these characters in the 1 hour that I saw. Like, it just really, I connected with not necessarily every single one of the hunters, although a little bit about a few of them, for sure. Like, the what's the big bearded guy?
He was great.
He's what's
Scottish
his
man.
name?
I don't
Yeah,
remember
he's
the name of the
called
Jovan.
Jovan, yeah.
Jovan. Yeah.
Anyway, he Kirk Thatcher, he was great. I really got a feel for him. Like, I really, just in the few lines of his Verusa, I got a real feel for, Jack, played by the brilliant Gael Garcia Bernal, who is a big deal Mexican movie star. I got a real feel for him. Elsa Bloodstone. I just really felt like I understood a lot of this about this Man Thing, who doesn't even have words. You still get a real sense of his character, even though there's just the 1 hour. I don't know. It's really well written.
And the actors really
Yes.
really bring a lot to it, especially you're talking about, like, the bearded burly hunter. Like, that could have been a nothing part on the page, but, like, the actor makes him feel very lived in.
But you can have the actors, like, because I'm going to pick on another thing too, and that was oh my god, I just forgot the name of it. The other Marvel movie with the gold. Everybody's like, all the gods that have the gold.
Oh, you're talking about
you mean Moon Knight?
No, the movie.
No, the new Blood and Thunder.
No, not Thor. I love Thor.
Okay.
No, I'm talking about with Angelina Jolie and
the Eternals.
Oh, the Eternals.
The Eternals. I watched that movie, and I felt nothing about any of those people. I was like, oh, okay, you've got the black gay one, you've got the woman, you got the whatever, like the Latina, and that was like, they were kind of like, okay, we've got we've got an American Indian, but that's how they defined them, and nothing else. Like, there was nothing about their characters that stood out to me, and those are all brilliant actors, every single one. So I really feel like the writing is as much. I mean, yes, the acting for sure, but the writing and the directing is as much gets as much credit as the acting does here.
Brilliant.
Well, like, you just brought up Man Thing, and I feel like the way the two leads interact with a character that most likely probably wasn't there is very impressive.
One thing that we did find out, there was an animatronic Man Thing that they built so that they could, like, that, there was a little bit of kind of, Yeah, I wish we could have had that more of that. So there is one shot, like a close-up shot, that he said you can see the animatronic one. By the end of it, they used all CG,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't want like a ball on a stick, which is the kind of shorthand term for what you usually do.
Yeah.
But there was that's a lot of money to spend for something that you're not even going to see, which is impressive to me in some ways. But yeah, there was an animatronic, and there was some suit, they built it up and everything. I haven't looked up the set pictures to see that, but the reason you kind of get some of that was because of that care taken with, we're going to build you at least something that you can interact with that's more than just green screen trickery.
Well, and that comes through
That's
because
cool.
like literally, like the relationship between Jack and Man-Thing, but also like the Elsa character is so buttoned up through most of this, but that like one scene where Man-Thing is escaping and the two of them look at each other and like react in this sort of joyful way, adds so much more vibrance to what is essentially a special effect. Like, although, kudos for them for going that far with it, but also kudos for them for doing the werewolf as a guy in a suit, because
talk to me about that, because I figured, Drew, this would mean something to you, the way they chose to portray what a werewolf looks like in this, which is a hark back to Werewolf London and Curse of the Werewolf and even the Wolfman.
It's definitely largely a Jack Pierce werewolf, although it should be noted, like it's a pretty, other than the sort of tribal tattoos that this version of Jack Russell has on his face, it's a fairly direct lift from the Mike Plug Werewolf by Night artwork, where it's shaggy body and a more human-like face and the pointed ears and everything. Like, he looks very much like the Werewolf by Night from
Did anybody
the
here
comic.
read the comic? Because I did not, so I never read
I did.
Werewolf by Night. Okay,
I did.
So that must
It's
be
been a
very
long
cool.
time, but yeah.
Like.
But there was a very conscious decision to have the actor show through in that way, though, too. Like there was a question about that, and it was a very conscious decision to make sure that was part of it, and also based on the comic book art, like you're saying, Drew. Sorry.
Well, were they afraid?
Well, and sorry, what?
Well, I was just going to ask, were the creators, Tony, this is for you about the Q&A that you went to, were the creators ever afraid that in a world where we now have had like 30 years of seeing werewolves that look like giant wolves on their hind feet, right, with the giant shoulders and
Sure.
everything I'm picturing, right? Were they afraid that people might reject this look, or is everybody just like, nah, go with it?
No, I think it was more the from what I got from the Q&A, it was more like, well, this is what we're gonna do. Like, nobody really like, we have a vision, and they were overall supported in that vision, and that was what they went with,
And I love that they Disneyfy it by having the beautiful. It wasn't even animation. I thought it was going to be animation, but apparently it was. There was actually a practical effect of the shadows when he's transforming, and you're just seeing the transformation in the shadows. That was actually like a live practical effect where they just had actors doing the different shapes or whatever, so that it looked I thought that was the coolest werewolf transformation I've ever seen, was the shadow one. And then all the cool the fact that it was using the strobe lights from the taser things and whatever. I just thought that was really, really clever and creative.
That's fantastic.
It's
I didn't mean to interrupt your thought, Drew.
No, it's okay. It's also the fact that he is. This is one of the things that I said about that ends up being my problem with a lot of purely CG characters, like the way the Hulk, frankly, is normally done in these things. Is that there's something that becomes unrelatable when something, first of all, something is so big like the Hulk is. But
Or the Abomination.
secondly, also, you know, the fact that you know that there's nothing there, and you know, there's a tactileness here that really just works. And you know, if this character does reappear, and given how popular this has been, I don't doubt that he will. I hope they continue to use you know, this approach to this particular character, because I think it's the right choice. You know, and especially if you're trying to make something, you know, kind of imposing, you know, frightening. Because like when you have the scenes where he's fighting, you know, all the various monster hunters and like the goons and everything in this, like it feels really visceral. And you know, that's been, I think, one of the things everybody's talked about is, you know, oh my God, I can't believe how gory this is. And you know, I don't think that would have come across if the werewolf had been a CG character. You know, I think the fact that it is a guy in a suit, you know, and there's stunts involved and things like that.
And again, practical effects, like that one shot that they had where it's the continuous shot where he's fighting and as the door is closing and the blood is splattering up on the camera.
Yes.
Fantastic.
And by the way, what a wonderful like variation on the Daredevil fight that was.
Yeah,
in a
exactly.
sense. You know, where the camera is moving and then stops and moves and stops and the fight keeps going on, which of course in turn was a comment on Old Boy. But in the world of MCU, that's the Daredevil fight, and nobody doesn't know that fight. I mean, and so you look at this and you go, wow, they're doing the Daredevil fight with a werewolf, and that was great.
Well,
Yeah.
the fact that this is called Werewolf by Night, and you don't actually see the werewolf is the payoff.
Yeah.
Also at the end, so they had to make the werewolf as awesome as they could. Although it should be said, both Elsa and Man-Thing are awesome. Is what like Elsa is like she chops off a guy's arm. He has a wrist-mounted crossbow, and she starts using the thing while the guy's severed arm is still in there. Like, she's a badass.
It has a very 1970s James Bond level carelessness about death, by the way. I mean, you know, it's like back then Roger Moore would just like slaughter people left and right, like sort of because it was what we would
there's
call
plenty of
comic
that happens in the MCU as well.
I guess, you know, but like I guess it depends on who the hero is. Like, you know, Captain America would not use his shield to cut off somebody's arm and then use their arm to shoot somebody else, you know, but I guess, you know, Elsa Bloodstone will, and we're in the dark side of the Marvel universe here.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Well, you know, and this opens things up for whatever they do. You were both already talking about Tomb of Dracula, but this opens things up with whatever they do with Blade.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
point.
this is kind of the soft run for that.
Yes.
But
yeah. How do you do Blade in this universe, by the way? Like Blade, how do you make Blade? What's gonna be the thing that makes Blade interesting? You know, like how do you like all vampire hunters are alike? So I'm just trying to figure out like what's going to separate him. You know, what is going to be his? Yeah, I can't wait to see what they do with Blade.
I have a feeling that they're going to do The Devil Rides Out, but with vampires instead of demons, because apparently it's set in the 20s and set in England.
No.
Wow. Yeah. So
wow.
I am very curious, because they have to kind of go the exact opposite of Wesley Snipes, because that's so iconic.
Right.
And, you know, this is, you know, again, this is leading the way. Like, you know, like you know, like they're doing Universal, and like maybe Blade, like let's do Hammer. Like it's you know.
There's also
like
a little bit of the time travel thing, because there's the message that he gets the sword. He gets at the end of the Eternals that he gets from the sword.
Yeah, but Blade doesn't age normally because he's part vampire. So
yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Like Wesley Snipes, his whole character was, you know, sarcastic bad. I mean, there wasn't much character there other than what Wesley Snipes the person who is an extraordinarily cool person, what he brought to it. But like, David Duchovny used to say that if you're trying to create a character, there's a question of what he likes and what he loves. He likes to eat, but he loves hot dogs. Now you know something about the guy. Can you tell me anything about like what Blade likes to do? I can't think of like what movies does Blade like to watch. What like so it's there's
Well,
it's
they have
meaningful.
they have
can do any.
they have an Oscar caliber actor, so I'm sure there's probably going to be more wrinkles to the
Oh,
character.
they'll come up with stuff.
hopefully.
Yeah. No, they will. I can't wait to see what it'll be. I cannot wait to have Blade be a character that'll be, that'll be cool. Yeah.
But I think also though they're going to look back to the way this is. They're going to also look at the comics because the Blade movies did not really, other than a central conceit, did not really take that much from Tomb of Dracula, where
That's true. Yeah.
like I have a feeling the MCU version probably will, because just the way Marvel Studios is. But switching back to this
Yeah, and the actual movie we're discussing.
yeah, because we'll I'm sure, I have no doubt we'll probably talk about Blade whenever Blade comes out. But
Yes.
Man-Thing may be the most direct, like Werewolf by Night is very close to the comic book version, the way he looks. Man-Thing may be the most direct lift I have ever seen of a comic book character on the screen. Like he looks just
that was amazing.
like
Really well
Also
done.
that close up at the end with all the like mushrooms and stuff. Also, he burns people up. Mofos
Yes.
get burnt up.
These
burns
monster,
people up.
these monster hunters. I have to say, so like there's this like whole business that the Bloodstone is about. It supposedly weakens monsters. But if we're to go off of how quickly Man-Thing and how quickly Werewolf by Night just bulldoze through these people, like how could they have possibly stood up to them at like full power? Because like if this is the weakened version, like they would have been completely outclassed.
You're
by,
absolutely right.
by
That's
full
a good point.
strength.
But it's a conceit, keeps it down to an hour, the bottom line is. Otherwise, you'd have to work a whole bunch of extra beats into this story where they figure out ways to weaken the monster and blah, blah, blah.
Well, also these monster hunters, though, they're just supposed to be like the best of the best.
Yeah.
And like they don't actually have, with exception of Jack, allegedly, like they don't actually have that many kills between them.
Yeah.
Like,
no, that's true.
so maybe it's just maybe it's a really hard line of work in the MCU.
Yeah. Yes, fighting monsters is tough.
I would
around here.
imagine so.
Well, I mean, they do talk about, several of them talk about, I hunted this one several times.
Yes.
It is, there are vendettas and tracking down a monster and then killing it sounds pretty hard in the same way that it would be hard to track down Dracula or anybody. So they do kind of talk about that. But Man-Thing just rips through. I just seeing his superpower actually, like that's what Man-Thing does. Like, especially when he just totally just sets somebody on fire like that, like through his phosphorus kind of stuff that he secretes. That was wow.
Do you think the reason that none of the heads on the wall belong to Jack is because he only ever kills people when he's in werewolf form, so he shreds them, so there's like no just head left?
Probably. That's the thing too. Like in the Werewolf by Night comic book, Jack Russell was constantly getting in fights with other monsters. So like he probably actually has killed that many monsters. It's just probably wasn't as deliberate as, or
she says he has
sadistic.
100 deaths, quote unquote. Yeah.
I think it might also be that if you are a monster, perhaps it would be, there before the grace go on. Like I would not want me to be up on that wall. Therefore, I probably won't taxidermy my enemies, because a wolf head would probably be something that they would taxidermy and put up there. So there's probably a maybe I don't put my fellow monsters up.
Well, It's not
necessarily
necessarily
on a wall.
it's not necessarily the hunters who are taxidermying. It might have been a bloodstone
No,
thing.
no, but I mean, in general, you wouldn't offer
yeah.
up the corpse
Sure.
when you
Agreed.
could possibly be that corpse at some point.
Yeah, yeah. I feel you.
I just like that the whole conceit is like he's there just the rescue man thing. Like
Yes.
he doesn't, he has no interest in the stone whatsoever. And
He weaseled his way into getting invited to this stupid thing. He clearly is not interested in playing any more than Elsa is. And the funny thing is, well, I mean, it begs the question: did he kill Ulysses Bloodstone just to trigger all of this to free Man Thing?
Well,
I don't
no,
think so.
because I don't think that he would have killed. First of all, he doesn't seem particularly interested in killing people for no reason. Like they draw a pretty. And this is a question that I think will have to come up again whenever they do Blade, but like he doesn't seem particularly interested in killing anyone for no reason. However, the monster hunters are portrayed as a fairly sadistic lot.
Right.
Like
and also, I apologize for saying that, because there's no way he killed Ulysses Bloodstone, because obviously they captured Man Thing to be a part of this thing. So forget I said that. That was a crazy theory. Anyway, continue.
So I'm left wondering, though, like, where do you think? So first of all, like, where do you think they are? Are they in the United States? Are they in Europe?
And what year
Like,
is it?
really...
Yeah. Where are they? They're in the United States. I feel that with great certainty. I feel like they are somewhere in the United States. Although I guess you're right, they could be in the English countryside, but I think they're in the United States. Just because it feels like Burbank. But the good question. I hadn't actually, until you asked that question, and I answered it with all of that certainty. You're right. There's no hint. The other one is, when are they? I'd say they're in the 40s. Although there are some dates on those tombs that indicates they're at least 20 years after the 80s, so it seems to be contemporary. But it's an else win. It's a never win. Because there's nothing particularly contemporary about these people. I don't know. Does anybody have a theory on this?
It's a lot of rule of cool on display.
For sure.
The thing that makes it contemporary, though, and they set this up to combine this, is the soldiers that get slaughtered are extremely contemporary.
Oh, well said.
Like,
yeah,
this
I didn't
is
think
modern.
about that.
There's no,
But
they
also,
do that on
no.
purpose.
I'm sorry.
I
I zoned out for a minute, but no, the dates on the in the crypt are 1989 to
No, I know. Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's why that's what suggests to me that it's contemporary. But I'm like, other than that, there's nothing to. But Tony's exactly right. The way the soldiers are dressed,
guards are extremely contemporary.
It's very contemporary,
and that's kind of what makes it cool. That's kind of they set that up really early, so they come in. What's nice about it is they set you up in an anytime, anywhere scenario. Like this should. They introduce you to the 40s and then show you that it's not.
Right.
Almost
These
instantly.
are people who choose
as they push into if you look hard enough, like as they push into the room, then you start to notice really, really contemporary guards. So you're like, oh, okay, well, it's not the 40s, because that's not 40s style. Like the armor and the way that they operate is not going to be the 40s. So, but but that's what makes it neat, right?
Oh, I agree.
They brought you into, where is this? Oh wait, these people could encounter the Avengers, right? Because that's where we're at.
Just like,
well, they also name drop the Avengers right from the start.
Of course.
So obviously this is meant to be in the MCU. Like it's just sort of figuring out where it is and when it is,
and which multiverse. Yeah.
Yeah, so it seems to be pretty. You're exactly right. I mean, and I was just thinking about the fact that in House of Long Shadows, for instance, that's the 1970s or 81 or whatever it was. But everybody in that universe prefers to live and talk and decorate their houses as though they're in a different time, and that's cool, because there's plenty of people really like that. So,
really. I never would have thought that.
So, gosh, is there anything that we haven't touched on that that we should. Actually, I mean, I think that we're probably ready to go on to our final thoughts and bring in any topic that we might have glossed over. But this has been a lot of fun. Tony, what are your final thoughts on Werewolf by Night?
I really enjoyed it, and I think it has a lot. I like that you can watch it as a new thing. If watching a darker MCU show is your bag, and we get it close to Halloween, perfect timing. I think fantastic. And it's early enough that you can watch as many times. If you're like Drew and I, you can watch as many times as you want to get into spooky season mode. Like I said before, I hope it leads to things that have a similar feel to this, and also things that maybe are slightly darker. But I don't need it to be just dripping with darkness, like as a thing.
Yeah.
I think that you can have all the Man-Thing stuff and then go, holy crap, he just set people on fire from the inside.
Yeah.
That's scary and horrible in all the ways it's supposed to be, right? I think seeing Man-Thing, for example, on a big screen and having it be what it is was some magic going on. As well as, this werewolf character that I've known since I was really tiny. Wow, if you like this stuff, what a great place to be, right? And I get, I've heard complaints here one way or the other, but I think that this is I hope that this brings a lot more of this stuff. I want to see more Dracula. I want to see more dark, the darker side. I want to see some Mephisto up in something. And, let's grab some more of this, more Man-Thing stuff.
Giant-sized Man-Thing, perchance.
Giant-sized Man-Thing.
Yeah,
like that means 3 hours. Sign me up. Probably
Wonderful.
don't. I don't know. Your mileage may vary if you don't turn off safe search for giant-sized Man-Thing. Keep safe search on. Is my idea. Even though you'll probably turn up the comic. Let's all hope. But yeah, I really dug it. I feel lucky. The score, of course, is great. They ask him about the score, like, hey, well, you're used to doing scores, and he goes, yeah, I had to do this. Like, he's like, I love this. I love what I'm directing so much that anybody, like, I thought about not doing that, right? But he's like, it would be terrible. Why would I do that to somebody? Because I'm just gonna go, well, I would do it more like this, like not as an ego thing, but just like set in your mind, if you're a talented, musician who's made tons of iconic scores.
Yeah.
And then you're directing on something else, maybe that you weren't as into, if it wasn't your baby, maybe you would get somebody else like, hey, you know what? I'm going to let somebody else take this. But when it's so insular, his whole point was I had to, because this was in my head, like I couldn't settle, even if it was the most talented person I knew, like somebody else. And I forgot he named a couple names. He's like, even if I got them, like I wouldn't be able to let it go. And so I had to do both. I had to do all of it. And that's fair. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I hope we get more.
Excellent. Gosh, Julia, what do you?
Yeah, absolutely. Hats off to Michael Giacchino for his directorial debut. It was amazing. I loved it, and good. And I'm so glad that Marvel Studios is venturing into holiday specials. The next one, I guess, will be the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, which I'm super looking forward to. So, no, I thought this was a really well executed project.
Have
Love
you?
these. Go ahead.
Julie, have you seen his short that he did with Patton Oswalt, Monster Challenge?
No, not yet.
Because he's been directing bits. They showed Monster Challenge. I'll have to. We should put it up. I'll have to put it up, but I'll send it to here. I'll find it and send it. It's great because he's been directing shorts and various bits up until this is.
But as a feature anyway.
But Monster Challenge was. It's so good.
But yeah, anyway. I love the use of the black and white filter and the red, like I said, and just kind of how they introduce. I love the shadows. I love the contrast. All the things I said. Just really, really fun experience. It did not disappoint at all.
Wonderful. Drew, what about you?
I also want to point out that I think this is excellent quote unquote starter horror for a younger fan, in much the way the actual Universal monster films are. Like I think that this would be a great way to introduce, a younger person to the genre, and maybe they would develop their own lifelong love of monsters. For my part, like I said, I've watched this 3 times. I really loved it. I hope that they bring these characters back. By that I mean, like, I want to see more adventures of the trio that they have established in this particular special. Not that I wouldn't enjoy other monster characters getting brought to the forefront, but since I know that that's probably going to happen in the Blade movie, I want to be specific and say I want more Jack, Elsa, and Ted.
Yes, absolutely. Me too. And in fact, I just sign on to everything that you guys said. I have nothing to add except for that I agree. I want more of these characters. Whoever's left alive at the end of this episode, I want to see more of them. So that's wonderful, including Billy Swann, which is the name for reasons I have no explanation for. Billy Swann is the name of the manservant who is also left alive at the end. Billy Swann was a songwriter in like the 60s and 70s. He wrote the song I Can Help, which was a big hit for Elvis Presley. It cannot be an accident that this character's name is Billy Swann, but I don't know what it means. So other than he can help, I guess. I have no idea why that character wound up that. Somebody may write in and go, oh no, actually Billy Swann's a character from the Marvel Universe. So if so, groovy. And I'm sorry I didn't know that. All right. Absolutely watch this film. If we were the kind who did thumbs up, thumbs down, we all really loved this. All right. Let's do our endorsements. What do you guys want to share that you have been into in the past week or so? We're meeting once a week through Halloween, so we're talking more than usual. But lay it on me. Starting with Tony, what do you got?
I'm still recovering from Fantastic Fest, so I've watched fewer just new movies. Although I still have been just super enjoying She-Hulk. It's still great every time. Reservation Dogs, still just an amazing show. And then I've been watching a bunch of Bond movies and watching Roger Moore mansplain things a lot more than I remembered. It's just so like, oh my goodness, okay. But I rediscovered my love of For Your Eyes Only, which I had the comic book for, which was awesome. What an awesome comic. Also, one of my favorite action Bond girls is in it too. So I really, Melina's pretty awesome. So I need to catch up on a lot of things. There's been various reasons why I haven't. Also, I've been trying to gear up. We're going into the studio with Deserts of Mars in November.
Oh, cool.
So I've been doing a lot of trying to wrangle all of that while I've been doing a bunch of other stuff. And so I hope to have more recommendations. Other than, once again, I'm going to say people watch Vesper on VOD because that movie has some of the best production design I've seen in quite a while. So
I would love to see a supercut of James Bond, pre Brosnan, I suppose, James Bond just explaining shit like that, because the typical thing was they'd go, Mr. Bond, what do you know about ice flows? And he'd go, well, ice flows, blah, 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 or diamonds or volcanoes or whatever it is. And he has this encyclopedic knowledge of everything that he can just expound.
Well, he'll also, correct the scientist whose job it is to be a scientist. But because she's a woman, he interrupts. Yeah, I mean, she does give him a nice withering glare, but it's still kind of like, can we really, man?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's his character, and that's of the time. It was. So, not a huge deal, but like watching it, you're like, wow, man, if I really met you at a party, you're kind of a jerk.
There are some wonderful Roger Moore Bonds. I think For Your Eyes Only is fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
it's good. It's got so much cool stuff in it. Like, and again, his opposite number in that kills people with a crossbow and everything.
Melina
badass.
Yeah.
She's awesome. Like, super cool. And that also has, every time I think of it too, I think of this is one of the most Jason, because it has a biathlon skiing scene where they're shooting and skiing and chasing. And I'm like, this is something I'm sure that you feel like. I know you, we've talked a lot. We've been friends for a long time. And there's something about that section of the movie. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
I wish Jason was here watching this with me
It's true.
I'm sure
And when I
he's
was a kid,
big on that.
I watched Fear Eyes Only probably I just watched it over and over again because it was on
Oh, well, it
HBO.
came on constantly on cable too, so that
Yes.
helps.
HBO played it over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So yeah, the the wide leg panted Bond of that era with and the whole and the disco sound of the Bond theme at the time, all of that stuff. That is my era. Thank you for reminding me of that. Julia, what about you? What do you have to endorse?
I'm gonna re-endorse a couple things I've endorsed in the past. One is my favorite Marvel YouTuber is Eric Voss of New Rockstars, and he'll break down stuff including translations of Latin, of Greek, of languages that Marvel invented. I mean, it's just I'm like, how are you doing this? And just deep knowledge of the comics, of everything. So I love listening to those breakdowns. And then Jason and I went to see two things this weekend, really great, wonderful things. One was we went to the Colorado Ballet's performance of Dracula, and oh my gosh, it was just brilliant. I don't know if there's still tickets for this coming weekend, but if you're in Colorado and you can get them, go. It's so freaking good. Or I guess I don't know if the Dracula Ballet is similar everywhere, but I imagine it might be.
This
So
is the major Dracula ballet that's been playing since the 90s. This one,
yeah, but I
yeah,
don't know if it's the same, if it's presented the same way as Colorado Ballet does it.
sure.
If it is, then for sure it's got to be great. But I just loved it. We went to see Amsterdam the movie, which was really clever and fun movie. I thought Christian Bale was just amazing in it, but it's very star-studded cast. It has Margot Robbie, John David Washington. Chris Rock is in it. Mike Myers, Anya Taylor-Joy, Taylor Swift, Timothy Olyphant, Michael Shannon. It's just amazing. And Rami Malek. It's really, really Robert De Niro. I'm just looking at the list going. Robert De Niro, Zoe Saldana, everybody's in this. So really fun if you could see that in the theater. It's really beautifully directed. So yeah, that's my
Wonderful.
things.
Thank you. Drew, do you have anything to endorse?
I have been consuming a lot of stuff because, well, COVID, and so I've had nothing to do but watch stuff. A lot of the things that I have watched are, I've got, because it's October, and I get nostalgic. A lot of what I have watched has been, vintage sci-fi and horror. Primarily of which was digesting the quite spectacular Island of Lost Souls Criterion Collection Blu-ray that was given to me by my wife for my birthday recently, and it's got a lot of special features on there. If you are a fan of vintage horror, Bela Lugosi, Charles Laughton, The Island of Dr. Moreau, I think it's well worth picking up. More contemporary, and I'm actually sort of surprised that more people aren't talking about this, and I'm even more surprised that I am the one that is bringing this up, because I am not really that big of an Anne Rice fan. But Jamie and I started watching the Interview with a Vampire TV series, and again, I'm not the biggest Anne Rice fan, so maybe take this with a grain of salt, but I think so far it's been excellent. Great central performances, great costuming. Particularly the guy playing Louis is really just bringing a very layered performance. Even going so far as to doing different voices for the character depending on which time period he's in, which I thought was a really nice touch. So I know that this is kind of a jam-packed Halloween season. We just got Werewolf by Night. There's a new Hellraiser. There's the Chucky TV series, a new Mike Flanagan TV series. I know that there's a lot. So, but nonetheless, I'm still kind of surprised that this is being lost in the shuffle. And I'm also kind of surprised that I've enjoyed it as much as I have. But I think it's terrific so far, and I hope it can stick the landing.
Yeah, it's been hitting a lot of friends of mine. I don't know, maybe just a lot on Twitter and somewhat on Facebook. People have been talking a lot about it, but I haven't. What streaming service is it on?
It is on AMC Plus.
Oh, that's why I don't have that, and it's a pain. Like the way they do things is not very conducive to. If you don't catch it soon enough, too bad. But you also have to have a subscription. So,
well, I
don't have it on my
watch it.
cable.
I watch it because of I keep the AMC Plus because it's not that much more expensive if you're already paying for Shudder. So.
I see. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's really worth watching. Like they've done an excellent job with it, and I don't know why I haven't. Yeah, I don't know why I haven't seen more people talking about it, but I just haven't. And but again, maybe that's just like because of the glut of genre stuff that's been being pumped out this October, which is considerable. But I highly recommend it.
Do you have Criterion Channel?
I have HBO Max, which has Criterion on it.
Oh, the Criterion Channel put out a huge. They did several things, which I should probably add. I need to visit it more often, but they put out a huge list of horror movies, and they've done a bunch of the new scans of like Matango and Varan and like stuff that's not in the box set that people wanted from the Godzilla box set, like they wanted a Toho or either a Toho or a Toei, full on everything. And friends of mine have been telling me I need to revisit that because supposedly these new scans with, I think they're subtitled too, if I remember correctly. I need to take a look through it, but both, like if you look at the list, they did kind of 2 tracks. There's like a, here's the horror classics, and there's like 80 stuff, and then there's also a bunch of stuff from Japan that is, I know that they've done new scans of them and put out new stuff in Japan. So the fact Criterion's getting those, like, fingers crossed they do a box set. That would be awesome. But and Criterion Channel also is an embarrassment of riches at this point. So there's a lot to stream during the spooky season.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, speaking of spooky season, Los Spookies is also still just killing it.
Yeah, we haven't watched season 2. We haven't watched season 2 yet, but we finished season 1. It was very fun.
Oh boy, you need to catch season 2.
We will. It's
still got the magic. We've been enjoying that. It's been a pleasant palate cleanser.
Yeah, I agree completely about Los Spookies. It's fantastic. I totally endorse and sign on to that. I've been watching so many things. I just saw Barbarian, and I thought it was magnificent. And everybody should go watch Barbarian. And this week we're going to watch Halloween Ends because we're going to do our episode about it come this Sunday. So bam, we're going to have 2 new things in a row, and that's really exciting. So that brings us to the end. I'm very thankful that we got a chance to talk about Werewolf by Night. It was a blast, and I'm looking forward to talking to you guys in just a few short days about Halloween. So everybody, be safe getting from here to there.
I hope everybody gets healthier. Too sick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome.
Definitely.
All right. I will see you guys later. Be excellent to one another. Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.